All right, welcome. Today, we're going to go on an architectural tour, but probably not the kind you're thinking of. See, we're not looking up at skyscrapers. No, we're going down, deep into the earth, to explore some of the most absolutely incredible structures humans have ever created.
So let's just start with this question. We usually measure architectural greatness by how high something is, right? How much it dominates the skyline. But what if we've been looking in the completely wrong direction? What if the most brilliant, the most resilient, and maybe the most fascinating cities weren't built towards the sun, but were carved into the stone itself?
And this isn't some futuristic sci-fi idea. This is ancient. For thousands of years, all across the globe, people have looked for shelter, for safety, for community by carving their homes directly into the earth. It's really the most primal solution to those timeless needs: protection from the elements, safety from enemies, and just having a place to call home.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this world, we need to know a couple of key terms. Archaeologists basically break down cliff dwellings into two main types. First, you have the cliff house. That's a structure that's built on a ledge or inside a natural cave. Then there's the cavate, which is actually dug or carved out of the rock itself. So think of it as built on versus carved out. Let's start our journey by looking at that first type, the cliff house.
So for our first stop, we're heading to the sheer canyon walls of the American Southwest. This is where we're going to explore some of the most magnificent structures ever built. Homes just perched in what look like impossible places, right in the heart of the cliffs.
This timeline really tells the story of our first big example, Cliff Palace. So it was built around 1200 AD, and it was a thriving community for about 100 years. And then, silence. By 1300, it was completely abandoned, most likely because of massive climate change-driven droughts. For nearly 600 years, it was just hidden away, until two ranchers basically stumbled upon it in 1888. And by 1906, it was, quite rightly, recognized as a national treasure.
And what a treasure it is. This is the largest cliff dwelling in all of North America, and it's an absolute marvel of engineering. The ancestral Puebloans didn't just blast into the rock. They worked with it. They used sandstone blocks, a special mortar made of soil and ash, and wooden beams, and they fitted this incredibly complex structure perfectly inside a huge natural cave. It's a true symbiosis of architecture and the natural landscape.
But this wasn't just a fortress. It was a home. Archaeologists figure that somewhere around 100 to 120 people lived here. Just try to imagine this place not as silent ruins, but as a vibrant living village, with families in their rooms, people chatting in the courtyards, kids playing, all safely tucked into the side of a cliff. Now, a really key feature of Cliff Palace is the kiva. These are round, sunken rooms that were absolutely central to the community's spiritual and ceremonial life. And here's the thing, Cliff Palace has 21 of them. That's a way higher number than other sites nearby. And what that suggests is that this place wasn't just another village. It was probably a major social and administrative hub for the entire region.
Okay, so now we're going to shift from structures that were built on the rock to structures that were revealed from within it. And this is a profound leap in human ambition. Our next stop is taking us all the way to India, where we're going to see a totally different, and you could argue even more staggering, approach to building.
To really appreciate what we're about to see, you have to understand two very different techniques. First, there's core carving. That's when you tunnel into a rock face and then hollow out the inside. But crest carving is the exact opposite. You start from the outside of a massive rock and you carve inwards, chipping away material to reveal a freestanding, monolithic structure. You're not just building a sculpture, you're literally excavating one from the earth itself.
And this beautiful quote from a 10th century philosopher just perfectly captures the idea. It's a philosophy of deduction, right? Not addition. The final form is already there, it's just hidden in the stone. The artist's job is simply to set it free. It's such a profound way of thinking about creation, and it's centuries before Michelangelo said something very similar in Europe.
And this is the breathtaking result, the Kailashnath Temple at Ellora. This isn't a building, it's the world's largest sculpture. It's the biggest monolithic structure on the entire planet. Craftsmen started at the top of a cliff and carved downwards, removing something like 200,000 tons of rock to reveal this entire temple complex. It's architecture in reverse. They built it from the roof down to the floor, an act of just sheer mind-boggling will.
Of course, this tradition of carving living spaces from the earth wasn't just in India. Cultures all over the world, like here in Iran, mastered the art of hewing rooms, passages, and entire complexes right out of the rock, for shelter, for safety, and for sacred rituals.
So we've seen homes built on cliffs, and we've seen temples carved out of them. Now let's explore the ultimate evolution of this whole idea. Not just a single building, but an entire city, hidden completely underground.
So in places like Cappadocia in modern-day Turkey, the main reason for this incredible feat of engineering was just survival. Early communities, from the ancient Hittites all the way to later Christian populations, they faced constant threats, invading armies, political persecution, brutal weather. And their solution? Disappear. They went underground, creating these vast hidden worlds to protect themselves.
This cross-section of Derinkuyu really shows you how unbelievably complex these worlds were. This is not a simple bunker. It is a true city. You can see all the different levels plunging deep, deep into the earth. That central shaft you see, it wasn't just for getting in and out. It was a 55-meter deep ventilation and water well. It was the city's lifeline. There were living quarters, stables for animals, even churches for worship, all connected in this massive, labyrinthine network.
And the scale here is just staggering. At its peak, Derinkuyu could shelter up to 20,000 people, along with all their livestock and food supplies. I mean, it had everything needed for long-term survival: missionary schools, wineries, storage rooms, and of course, these massive stone doors that they could roll into place to seal off corridors from any intruders.
And Derinkuyu isn't even the only one. It's one of dozens of these underground cities in the region. Another famous one is Kaimakli. And you can kind of think of it like this. While Derinkuyu is the deepest and most intense, a real deep dive into history, Kaimakli is wider and a bit more spacious, so it feels a little less claustrophobic. Each one gives you this unique glimpse into this incredible way of life.
So, after touring all these marvels of the ancient world, what's the big takeaway for us today? What can these master builders of the past possibly teach our modern, high-tech world? Well, it turns out a lot.
You know, as our own cities face these unprecedented challenges, overcrowding, a rapidly changing climate, a desperate need for green space, it turns out these ancient ideas aren't just historical curiosities. They are profoundly, shockingly relevant. They really represent a mastery of sustainable, resilient living that we are only just now beginning to appreciate again.
I mean, the benefits of building underground today are immense. The Earth's stable temperature gives you natural insulation, which slashes heating and cooling costs. Building down frees up precious surface land for parks and nature. It offers incredible protection from noise, from extreme weather. You can even hide ugly infrastructure like parking garages and highways, which radically improves the quality of life in our cities. See, these aren't new ideas. They're just ancient wisdom rediscovered.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. For millennia, humans had this incredibly intimate, symbiotic relationship with the Earth. They saw it not just as a surface to build on, but as a medium to live within. So as we build our future, maybe the most important question we can ask ourselves is this: what have we forgotten from our ancestors who dwelt in the deep?